Orlando Science Elementary students and families, and welcome to tonight's Out of This World theme night. We're very excited to be doing lots of activities, games, and experiments together that are all going to be space themed. We even have some incredible art that we're going to be completing together. So stay tuned as we do a lot of fun space out of this world activities. Welcome again to Orlando Science Elementary's Out of This World theme night. Orbit is ready to blast off, and we hope that you are too. Tonight, your activities are going to be led by two incredible astronauts. We have myself, Miss WIltrout, the STEM teacher here at Orlando Science Elementary, and the incredible astronaut, Miss Martinez, our art teacher here at Orlando Science Elementary. We look forward to leading you guys through all sorts of science experiments and art activities that are all space-themed. Here's our itinerary for the evening. First, we're going to do some dance breaks because everybody loves to get their wiggles out before we begin. After our dance breaks, we are going to do a fizzling comet experiment. Then we have a demonstration where we're going to be talking a little bit more about how craters are formed on the moon and on other planets. After that, we have some watercolor art that's going to be led by Miss Martinez as she shows us how to create beautiful galaxies using watercolors. And finally, we're going to be making our own constellations, both here at school and you guys will be able to make your own at home to share with us some of the incredible artwork that you come up with. We can't wait to get started. Before we blast off, we have a dance song that we are going to do together. You can follow along with Miss Martinez and I as we do some kooky moves, or you can come up with moves all of your own. Are you ready to dance? Make sure you have plenty of space. Here we go. That was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for dancing with us today. We had a great time. Are you ready to start some science experiments? Because we are. If you take a look at your screen in just a moment, you're going to see some of our amazing materials that you're going to need to do our fizzling comet experiment. We'll give you just a moment to get these materials before we get started creating some fizzling comets. The materials that you are going to need include baking soda, vinegar, water, and food coloring. The food coloring is optional. It just makes our experiment a little bit more exciting and fun. We'll give you just a moment to get those materials. If you need to, you can pause the video now and play it again when you're ready. Got your materials? Let's go ahead and get started with our fizzling comets. Stop sharing, right? Yeah. Sorry, I'll have them actually here for the lifetime. Right. Okay. So for this experiment, you're going to need baking soda, some vinegar. I like to use the tablespoons and what are they called? Measuring cups. Thank you. I like to use measuring cups as well, but if you don't have some, I'll show you exactly how much water and baking soda that you're going to need to get the right consistency. And of course, using some food coloring is also a nice way to make it a little fun, but it's an optional part of the experiment. So first things first, you're going to take your baking soda, and if you have a measuring cup, you can use 1 cup of baking soda. If you don't have a measuring cup, that's okay. I'll show you about what it looks like when you have 1 cup. I'm going to take my baking soda, I'm going to pour it into the measuring cup. You want 1 cup. Come on out, baking soda. See it pouring in there. Awesome. I'm going to add it into my bowl here. If you have a bowl at home, this would also be helpful, but you can put it onto a baking sheet or a cookie sheet as well. After I've added my baking soda, the next step is going to be using another measuring cup of water. So this is my 1/4 measuring cup. And again, if you don't have the measuring cups, that's okay. Here's my water in the measuring cup. And I'm going to add this directly into the bowl. So when we put them together, see if I can get it to tilt just right. I can start mixing the two. I'll get a clear bowl in a minute. And it starts to make this ooey gooey kind of feel to it. If it starts to be too runny like this here, where it's almost like a liquid, we can add a little bit more baking soda to make it thicker. So I'm adding some baking soda down here. add the baking soda into it. I can mix it in again. And it starts to be a little bit thicker. So now it's not runny, it's not nearly as watery. I can kind of mold it and shape it. So I'm going to mix it together some more. You can see it's a little sticky on your hands, and that's okay. We like it a little messy. Perfect. After we've done mixing it together, the next step is to leave it sit out for a little while. If you'd like, this is a great step to go ahead and add some drops of food coloring to make it a little bit more exciting. I'm not going to use food coloring for this experiment now, but you can add some in at home. So after you've shaped it into whatever shape you'd like, I like to make it circular for our comets. After you've made those shapes, then you can go ahead and leave it out for about 2 hours before you do the next part of the experiment. Luckily, we've already pre-made some of our comets. Thank you. Our wonderful Miss Martinez helped us out. So here we have our comets after they've been sitting out for a while, and you can see letting them sit out just helps them keep the shape that you put them in. So here's our beautiful comet. And what we are going to do next is we're actually going to add some vinegar to our baking soda and water comets. If you're familiar with vinegar and baking soda, when you mix them together, you're going to have a fizzy reaction. Thank you. I'm going to add some vinegar here. So I'm taking my vinegar, I'm opening it up. Opening it up, there we go. My vinegar, and I also put my comet on a small sheet so that we can see it. Miss Martinez is going to hold it for us for the camera. And in 3, 2, 1, here it goes. Whoa! It immediately started to fizz and have that kind of reaction. And if we look at the meteor, it's starting to get smaller and smaller and smaller as the baking soda gets washed away from the vinegar. And the more we put on it, the more it will start to shrink. So I'm going to pick up my creation here, and you can see it's already starting to fall apart. Ooey gooey, it's fizzling and bubbling. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and share our screen again to share some of the science behind comets and a little bit about that baking soda and vinegar reaction that we saw too. So the way that we have our comets, we actually have a few different parts. In the middle of our comet, where it's shooting off towards space, is the comma and the nucleus. The nucleus is the rocky part of the comet, and the comma is the tail that's starting to come off as it's speeding through space. But as it's going so fast, particles of the comet are starting to flail off behind it, and that creates the tail of the comet. So we can see there's a gas tail and a dust tail. The dust tail is all those tiny pieces of rock that are starting to fly off behind it, and the gas tail is from the gases that are stuck inside of the rock. And slowly, as the pieces of rock start to wither away, gases are released to make that beautiful tail that we see. A comet is kind of like the shooting stars that you might see at night as well. So, what's our next experiment? In our next experiment, we are actually going to be taking a closer look at creating craters. Craters can be found In our next experiment, we are actually going to be taking a closer look at craters. In this experiment, it's going to be astronaut-led, which means at home you can sit back, relax as we start to create some awesome craters. Craters can be found on Earth, they can be found on other planets, and they can even be found on the moon. When you look up at night, you might see craters, the kind of like holes and divots that we see on the moon. We're actually going to be creating our own using some materials we have here at school. Oh, thank you, Ms. Martinez. Awesome. So to start, here at school we made some different layers on the ground. This is very similar to different layers that we have on Earth. So you can see all the different parts. Here we go. And what we are going to be doing to our wonderful Earth replica is we're actually going to be taking some asteroids and we're going to be shooting them down towards the Earth. When we do this, it's going to leave behind a crater or a divot in the ground, and it'll show us how the craters are actually formed. So we have a few different materials that we're going to be using, some different sizes of the asteroids to show how the different impacts will also change things. So what I'm going to do for this experiment is I'm actually going to move the camera. I'm going to move it. I don't want to touch it with my nasty hands. I'll have to wash my hands in between these two. There we go. So we can actually see our replica Earth, and we can see all of the layers here. And then These are the two asteroids that we're going to be using to impact the Earth. We have a really big one, which is very beautiful. I love the colors in it. And we have a smaller one, just plain white. Before we actually do the experiment, which of these asteroids do you think is going to have the greatest impact on our Earth? Think about it for a second. All right, we're going to go ahead and test it out and see if your hypothesis was correct. I'm going to start with our smaller asteroid. It's going to hit the Earth in 3, 2, 1. Whoa. You guys can see some of the dust started to go around it. And if you take a close look, I'm going to zoom in our camera a little bit. If you take a close look right in here, we can see this spot that was left behind and even made some of the other layers start to come up. Let's do another one with the small asteroid again, and then we'll switch over to the big asteroid. So here's our small asteroid. It's going to hit the Earth in 3, 2, 1. Ooh, again, we had some dust fly up, and we have a great example of the crater that was left behind. So the impact that was hit right here, we can see how it's different from all of the different dirt that was around it. Now it's time for the big one. We're going to do the big one twice, just like we did with our smaller asteroid. And I wonder what kind of impact we'll have this time. So here's our big asteroid, and it's going to hit the Earth in 3, 2, 1. Whoa! That left a really big impact, and we can even see some of the layers down here started to come up. We have some rocks that are starting to come up from the bottom. Oops. So here are the rocks that came up from the bottom, and we have a bigger divot around the side. Whoops! Thank you. So here we can see some of the rocks that came up from towards the bottom of the Earth that we have here, and our divot that was left behind. One more time for asteroid, the bigger one. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Ooh, lots of Earth started to come up, and we have a really good impact here as well. We can see that crater right here. We can see how it has that circular impact and how it's kind of flattened out the parts around it. And if you look very closely, we can see more of those darker rocks are starting to come up right here. Awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed our astronaut-led demonstration as we talked about craters. Now we're going to share our screen and show some of the photos of real craters that can be found on other planets, on our moon, and even here on Earth. So if you take a look at your screen, you guys can actually see a few different examples of craters that are left on moons or even left on our planet Earth. That's right, sometimes meteorites crash down into Earth, but we don't see those as often because they can fill with plants or water, as our pictures in the middle show us. So sometimes those craters, those impacts that are left by meteorites, turn into lakes. I think that's very interesting. But one of the reasons that scientists really love to study meteorites on other planets and on moons is because it shows us a little bit about what's under the surface. As we look very closely, we can see, like we did in our experiment, the different layers that the planet has. And that can tell us a lot about what kinds of things that planet is made out of. So I think that's really interesting as we're learning more about space to also study what is left behind when you have that big impact. Martinez, would you like to go to the next slide? All right, my dear, so now it's time for another dance break. But for this dance break, you guys are actually going to be following along with the screen as Miss Martinez and I set up for the watercolor experiment. So go ahead and dance along. We're going to be watching your moves, and I can't wait to see how you guys do. Woohoo! Love your moves! It's fine. Looking great. Love those dance moves. Sanji, great moves. Woohoo! Mila, great move. Judah, love it. Akshara, great move. Sophia, woohoo! Good job, Chloe. Nice job, Kelsey. Woohoo! That was total rock star status. I loved watching you guys dance. Great work, everybody. All right, Miss Martinez and I are just perfecting the camera angle for the watercolor art that we are about to do. While you are waiting, if you would like to get your watercolors, paper, and paintbrushes, this is a great time to do so. Very nice, guys. I absolutely love everything that you guys are doing. Go ahead and grab your materials for the watercolor art. That's going to be your watercolors, paper, and paintbrushes. When you're ready, you can complete the poll that we're going to be putting onto the screen in just a moment to show us that you are ready for the next thing. Yeah. Looking great, guys.
We had both of them in view last time, so let's.
Excellent. Ms. Martinez and I are just perfecting that angle for you. Perfection. Great job, my friends. All right, so we're going to go ahead and share the poll now. When you are ready to complete the poll, that tells us that you guys have all of your materials. Well, some of our friends are asking what a watercolor gallery is, and that's what we're going to do in just a moment. All right, so your poll question, when you have all of your materials for the Galaxy, your poll question is, what job would you want on a spaceship? Would you like to be a spaceship captain, an engineer, a navigator, or a chef? The captain, of course, is going to be the one that leads their crew. The engineer might be somebody who is making any changes on the ship or is changing things as needed to fix stuff. The navigator is the person telling everybody where to go. And the chef makes some delicious meals for the whole crew. So what job would you like to have on a spaceship? Love it. So far, we have captain and engineer neck and neck. They are so close to each other. Navigator is another popular option, and so is chef. When you have your materials for the watercolor art, then you can go ahead and complete the poll so that we know when you're ready. Love it, everybody. All right, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now and share with you our results. Our results are captain was the most popular choice. Lots of friends wanted to be captain. Engineer is the second most popular choice. Chef and navigator right there at the end. Excellent work, everybody. Thank you so much for participating in our poll. What we are going to do next, my dears, is our watercolor art. So Ms. Martinez, if you'd like to talk a little bit about the galaxies they're going to be making.
I would love to. All right. So I hope you have had a lot of fun learning about how comets travel and how to create craters. One of my favorite things is just looking out at the stars. We don't get to see a whole lot of the night sky because of the ambient light in our area, but the night sky is actually full of bright colors. And our galaxies have a lot of vibrant colors in them as well. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a watercolor painting of a galaxy. So your galaxy can be any color you want. There are some examples on the screen of different pictures that we have of different galaxies. You'll notice that in the center of the pictures, it's bright colors and it's surrounded by darker colors on the outside. And we are going to mimic that in our painting. So if Ms. WIltrout will transfer over so that you can see what we're going to be doing. We have our traditional watercolors, a cup of water, and a paintbrush. Now I have two types of paper here. One is a watercolor paper. It is made of a tighter weave and it's a little bit stronger than regular copy paper. If you do not have watercolor paper, that is okay. All right. I also have a regular piece of computer copy paper that will work just as well. One warning, if you are using the regular copy paper, and that is if it gets too wet, the paper gets very, very fragile and it can tear very easily. So you want to make sure that you're being extra careful if you're using regular copy paper. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started by getting our paintbrush wet. And we are going to choose one of the lighter colors that we are going to use. So our options are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, or purple. Now, if you know Miss Martinez, you know her favorite color is purple. So that is the color that I'm going to start with. So I'm going to get my paint very wet, all right? And then I'm going to make a line straight across my paper in a diagonal direction. So we're going to do a diagonal stroke straight across from one corner all the way to the other. And we're just going to swish it around. And I'm going to do this on both pieces of paper just so that y'all can see the difference between the two. All right. So you can already see that there's a difference in how the color comes out on the paper. If your color is too dark, if it's really dark like this, that's okay. You can always add a little more water to help spread it out. And I am going to add in some yellow. So I'm going to get my yellow nice and wet. Now, you might notice that my yellow is getting a little muddy now. What you can do is you can take a paper towel, paper napkin, and just dab at it and clean up that color so it stays a nice clean yellow instead of getting all mucky. I'm going to add in some yellow around my purple on this one side. I'm going to do the same thing over on this one. Ms. WIltrout, what's your favorite color?
I really like the color blue. Is there any way we could add some blue as well?
I think we can.
I see lots of friends are following along so nicely. Great work, everybody. Ziva's got some great painting strokes. I like it. Matthew also really doing a great job following along. Mila, I love the use of colors.
Now what's really cool here is I've added in some blue right next to the yellow. And because the water is mixing, we are getting green right in between the two colors. Now that I have some bright colors going, I'm going to start adding in some of those darker colors we saw. So I'm going to come over to this end where my black is. Again, I'm going to get it really, really wet so that the colors spread around. Now, if this is darker than what you're wanting, and it is a little bit for my taste, we can add more water to it. And that will help spread it around. Now, if you're getting too much water on your paper, don't be afraid to take a paper napkin and just kind of blot at it to help get some of that water up, especially if you're using that copy paper, because that copy paper is going to get really wet really fast.
I know some of our friends are still working on their middle. Would you like to show some artwork that we made earlier?
I would love to. So me and Miss WIltrout we did spend some time doing some watercolor galaxies. So this is one that we did on copy paper. And we added some salt to it at the end. And what that did was it helped pull some of the water and the color around, giving it more of a textured night sky feel to it. This one we did not add salt to, and it still came out pretty cool. We blotted at the strokes instead of going straight across. We kind of dabbed the paintbrush, so it gave it kind of a cloudy feel to it. And then we did do some on some watercolor paper. So here's one that we did where for the white stars, we took a different kind of paint called acrylic paint, and we flicked the paint onto the paper to make it look like there were stars in our galaxy.
We can show some more examples at the end, but I see a lot of our friends have caught up. They've done a great job making their beautiful, colorful middle. I see Ashani working so hard. Love it. I see Sajid, wonderful work. Alina, Arna. Everybody's working so hard with their artwork. I can't wait to see at the end.
All right. So we are taking the black and we are filling in the outer parts of our paper. And if you want to give it that cloudy feel, kind of dab the paintbrush instead of doing long strokes, dabbing it like this. It's gonna kind of create that cloudy effect. Now I don't want it completely black, so I'm gonna add some blue over here, just so it doesn't get too dark. And we're gonna add some more purples and kind of blend where our bright colors are with our dark colors.
Great work, Raya, Sophia, Chloe. Oh my, all of our friends are doing such a great job. Arani, I love it. Chelsea, Bengal, very nice.
I do hope that you all take pictures of your beautiful artwork and you post them to our Padlet that we will share towards the end of the night, because we would love to be able to share all of this amazing artwork. I'm kind of jealous that I don't get to watch y'all do it.
Rishi's doing a great job as well. I see Sohan working so hard. Everybody's being such a rock star. Vincent, very cool. Great work, everybody.
Now, we did do those bright colors in the middle. If you want to add some along one of the sides, you can, because colors are not, the Galaxy doesn't really mind if you add color in other spots.
That was a great thing to add, because I agree. If you do not have black paint, that's okay. Maybe you want to use a purple or a blue, or maybe even mix a few of your colors together to make it a darker effect. But it doesn't have to be a specific color. Any color that you would like is going to make a beautiful galaxy.
So another example that we have shows this beautiful reds and yellows being swirled around. And there's not a whole lot of black on this page. So you don't have to have black in order to make a beautiful galaxy.
Great job, everybody. I see so many friends that are doing such a great job with their painting. I also love to watch Miss Martinez paint. It just makes me so happy to see how she creates things and to see how you create things as well. Christian, great job. Maya, wonderful work. Sujit, very cool. Ooh, Carissa, I love it. Very colorful. I love all the different colors that I'm seeing. Laksha, I love it. Using your paintbrush so nicely to add the black around the edges with the beautiful color streaks in the middle. If If you have any questions about space or galaxies as you are watching, please feel free to share them in the chat as well. I'm always happy to answer any questions that you guys are facing. These look wonderful, guys. You can see Miss Martinez is going back and adding a little bit more water. Arnika asked what my favorite planet is. I would say my favorite is probably Mars because there's just so much for us to explore and learn about our red planet. I loved listening to you guys when you were doing your polls as you told us all about your favorite planets too. Great job. I love how Miss Martinez is going back in and adding that a little bit of more water. Kind of helps blend the colors together. Ooh, favorite galaxy. That's a good one. I love the spiral galaxy like we have here at the Milky Way, which is where our planet is and where our solar system is, because the spiral galaxy has, well, a spiral to it, and I think that's very beautiful. I also really love nebulas. Nebulas are where the stars are born, so there's all sorts of gases that are there, and we get to see how the gases mix together to create stars. So Ms. Martinez is going into her other picture, and that gives you guys plenty of time to work on your pictures as well. Love all the different colors that I'm seeing. I know Ms. Martinez does as well. She can't wait to see your beautiful pictures that you're going to be posting on the Padlet at the end of the night. Ms. Martinez, what do we do if our page is all filled up? Is there any other steps?
So there is. If your page is all filled up and you want to add
I paint while you talk.
Yes.
Yes.
And you want to add an extra cool effect, you need some salt, which you probably have in your kitchen. So if you have a little salt shaker, or if you don't, ask a grown up for help. You're going to take a little bit of salt, and after you've made sure that there is plenty of water on your page, like you don't want it so soaking that it's going to rip the page, but you do want to make sure that there is a good bit of water. What you're going to do is you're going to sprinkle that salt onto the page and you're going to let it dry. And what that's going to do is it's going to pull the ink and the water, and it's going to create an effect that could turn out something similar to this.
Ooh. See it? Yeah, it almost looks like fireworks. How it's the salt is pulling all of that water. It's beautiful. Wonderful, wonderful work. So whenever you're ready, you can just add the salt, like Ms. Martinez did. And it's always okay if you want to add the salt and then go back in and add a little bit more water to it. That's a great choice as well. Looking wonderful, everybody. One of my friends asked what our favorite star is. That's a tricky one. I know that there's a star called Betelgeuse that is huge. And I always think it's interesting when we get to see those really big stars. And of course, our star is a really big, good contender because it gives us the heat and light that we need for life on this planet.
I really like the North Star.
Ooh, the North Star. That's a good one, too. That one always points, it helps the sailors when they are trying to find their direction. Excellent work, friend. As we mentioned before, when you are ready, the final step is to add some salt. It's okay if you don't have salt. Your picture will still turn out gorgeous and beautiful, and I can't wait to see your work. However, if you'd like to add that salt, you just want to add a little bit of water to your watercolor and then put the salt on so it has the effect where the water is being pulled out from the twist of salt. So Ms. Martinez is going in, she's adding a little bit more salt to it. You see she's just kind of sprinkling it on. Very nice. Beautiful. All right, my friends, you are welcome to continue working on your watercolors if you would like. We are going to go ahead and get ready for the next activity. So take your time, no worries. You can continue working on your watercolors, but we're going to start to move our watercolors to a safe place to dry. Great work. Go ahead and move our camera as well so that we're back facing the green screen. There we go. Hello, everybody.
And our last activity is a mystery activity that we did not warn you about in advance. You may complete it tonight, or you might complete it over the weekend, and that is okay.
So if you could not hear Miss Martinez as she was putting the watercolors away, a reminder is that this activity is going to be very creative. So it's okay. I know that you might not have the materials right now, but you'll have plenty of time to work on the activity. It doesn't have to be done here tonight. So what Ms. Martinez is going to do is she's going to share our screen so that we can talk a little bit about constellations. Awesome. If you're familiar, constellations can be so beautiful, and we actually have a picture of the constellations here. Before we tell you about constellations, we are going to do one more poll. And what I'd like my friends to do while we're doing this poll, if you are ready to clean up, this is a good time to put your artwork in a safe place. If you don't feel like cleaning up right now and you want to keep working on your galaxy, that's okay. You can listen as you work on your galaxy. But if you would like to clean up, go ahead and start cleaning up now. Your poll is on the screen in just a moment. All right, so the poll, the question that we have for you for this last poll, if you were going on a long trip into space and could only bring one item, which item would you bring? Would you bring your favorite toy, your favorite book? Would you bring a picture of your family, or would you bring puzzles and games? So think about what you would bring, and when you are ready to move on to our final activity of the evening, you may complete our poll. I love it so far. I see lots of friends that really like their favorite toy, lots of friends that would love a picture of their family for their long trip. A few friends would like puzzles and games, and if it's a really long trip, puzzles and games would definitely help pass the time. I think a favorite book would also help pass the time, so it's really hard to choose. We'll give our friends about 30 more seconds for the poll before we get ready to talk about the final thing of the evening, constellations. Remember, if you are still working on your artwork, that's okay. We're not asking you to rush. You can always take your time, enjoy yourself as you are doing your watercolor painting, and we can just listen as we're going to tell you about the final activity, which you can complete on your own time. You do not have to do this activity right now. Are we ready to share some results?
Yes, we are. All right. So, a picture of the family is the one thing that 48% of everyone would want to bring if they were going on a trip in space. This was followed by a puzzle or a game, favorite toy, or their favorite book.
That is awesome. I would say for me, I would definitely like a favorite book, but that picture of a family, that would be really important too if it was a long spaceship. So in just a moment, Ms. Martinez is going to share the screen so we can talk a little bit more about constellations. Constellations are one of my favorite things about space because it is something that is so beautiful, and it's a way for us to use our imagination while we're looking up at the stars. So for centuries and centuries, people have been looking at the stars and they've been kind of playing connect the dots. They look at all the stars that are in the sky and they can picture in their brains a way that the stars could make pictures. Now, the stars aren't actually making those pictures, but if we use our imagination, we can see the way that the stars could make pictures. So a good example of that is the picture on your left of the puppy dog. I know, it's a gorgeous dog. I love it too. And we can see all of the stars that are in the sky on that puppy dog, and there's a light purple line that you can kind of imagine is there for that dog. And then around the outside is the light blue lines that if we use our imagination again, we can picture the way that the dog would be looking. On the right-hand side, you can also see a picture of Orion. And Orion is a great constellation. You have Orion's belt, and he is a mighty warrior with his bow. And Ms. Martinez is going to tell us a little bit more about the stories that go behind the constellations we can see.
Hi, everyone. So, as Ms. WIltrout shared, constellations have been used to help navigators know where they are at. And they can also be used to help us know more about the different seasons, but they are also used to share stories. The ancient Greeks, they would come up with constellations. They would come up with characters and share these stories with their children, passing down their beliefs and their culture. So we have a challenge for you, all right? We want you to use your imagination and come up with your very own constellation, all right? But you can't just do random stars in the sky. There needs to be some kind of story, all right? We want you to create these constellations using any materials that you can find. You'll see on the screen in just a moment some examples of ideas of materials you can use. So there are stickers and paper, marshmallows and toothpicks, clay, anything you can think of, all right? We want you to come up with a constellation and a 2 to 3 sentence story and submit it to the Padlet. And what's going to happen is me and Miss WIltrout are going to pick 2 of our favorites for each grade level. And those 2 students are going to get a special prize later next week. All right, so we can't wait to see what you come up with. Me and Miss WIltrout also came up with our very own constellations. So Miss WIltrout, will you stop sharing the screen so we can show them ours?
I see lots of friends that are also holding up their beautiful artwork to the screen when they finish. That is so awesome. We love seeing all of your work. Now, Ms. Martinez and I would love to show you guys some of the constellations that we made as well. So here you can see the constellation of a cat that I made using black paper, a white crayon, and some stickers. You can use this method if you'd like, or you can come up with your own method to create stars and connect them to make a picture. And the story that I have behind my cat constellation is about the sailors that were at sea a long time ago. A long, long time ago, when the sailors were at sea, they didn't have iPhones and cameras, so they couldn't look at pictures of their cats. And they got so lonely, missing their kitty cuddles. So they would look up at the stars and they would see our cat constellation and feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Ms. Martinez, you made a constellation as well.
I did. So this is my constellation I made out of special jewels, pops, toothpicks, and black tape. And it is a mermaid's tale. My story is that, mermaids kind of have a bad reputation with sailors. That used to be believed that mermaids would lure sailors to their doom. But I think that not all mermaids are evil. Not all of them are trying to be mean. And that maybe, just maybe, this one mermaid rescued a bunch of sailors. So that is my constellation story.
And remember, all of our friends on our Zoom, you guys are welcome to make your own constellations and stories as well, and you can post them into our Padlet, which we're going to share in just a moment. So let me go ahead and share our screen. Share screen. Some of our friends are asking if they have to make a story behind their constellation. Yes, I would love to hear all about the stories you guys are coming up with.
Now, we're not asking for a whole novel or even a whole paragraph. Just 2 to 3 sentences explaining what your constellation is.
So at the end of our Zoom tonight, if you would like to work on your constellations, you can. If you'd like to work on them over the weekend, you can. If you don't feel like doing a constellation, no big deal. You do not have to. But if you want to, that's a great way to be entered in for our prize. So my dears, thank you guys so much for coming to our Zoom tonight. Ms. Martinez, would you like to talk about our Padlets? I'll share them into the chat.
So we do have a Padlet for you to post pictures of your fizzing comets, your watercolor galaxy, and your constellations. We want to see your work. If you share any of it on social media, please tag us with
hashtag SteamOrca and Orca in Space.
All right, so hashtag SteamOrca or hashtag Orca in Space. We would love to see your creations. We also have a survey that we would love for you to fill out so we can plan more of these awesome events. Let your voice be heard because we are here for you.
Awesome. All right, I am putting into the chat now those 2 links to share your photos and the link to share your thoughts. If you would like to stay for 5 minutes to talk to Ms. Martinez or Ms. WIltrout, you are welcome to do so. But if you feel like you are ready to go and enjoy the rest of your night, then you are welcome to go. So you can decide now if you're going to go, but have a great rest of your evening. If you'd like to stay and chat with Miss Martinez and Miss WIltrout, we will call on some blue hands that we see up. Goodbye, my friends. It's great to see you guys. All right, let's call on a few friends that I have hands up for. If you would like to stay, you're welcome to stay. I see Arna, you have your hand up. Go ahead and unmute so you can tell us a little bit about.
I just wanted to say this is my Galaxy.
Oh, beautiful.
That is gorgeous.
I love that you're sharing.
I was very good at art in 4th grade, so I think I applied my skill here.
Great job. I love it, Arna. Thank you so much for sharing.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. I also see Lilith has their hand up. Lilith, go ahead and unmute.
Am I able to show you my Galaxy?
Go for it.
Ta-ta.
Oh, that's so cool.
That is beautiful.
I love the rainbow effect. Lots of different colors.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Lilith. Arini, go ahead and unmute, my dear.
It's that actually, is it like okay if we make our galaxy out of like what do we call those? Yellow pom-poms?
Yes.
Oh, great idea. Very creative.
And straws?
Yeah, go for it. That sounds like a wonderful idea.
Okay, thank you. Bye, Miss WIltrout. See you tomorrow.
I'll see you tomorrow. Some of my friends asked, who do we send the constellation? If you would like to email Miss Martinez or Miss WIltrout, you are welcome to do so, but I really recommend sharing your photos on our Padlet. So right here it says share your photos, and it says bit.ly OSES Super Padlet. That's where you can share your photos, and I also sent that in the chat so you can share your photos there. I'm going to keep calling on hands. We have just a few more minutes before we're going to let everybody go so you can enjoy the rest of your night. Zia, I see you have your hand up, my dear. What would you like to say with us?
I wasn't here in the starting of the meeting.
That's okay. It was just for fun. Did you get to do some art?
Yeah.
Would you like to show us the art that you did?
Sure.
And so if any of you,
It's still a little wet.
That's okay. It looks beautiful. I love the galaxy that you have so far. Very nice.
now, if any of you did come late or you didn't have the materials, don't worry. We did record and we will be sharing the recording later so that you can go back and do them if you want.
All right. And then I'm going to call on just two more friends for this evening before we let everybody go and enjoy their night. Judah, I see that you've been waiting so patiently. What would you like to say, my dear?
So where do we find the Padlet at to upload our pictures?
Great question. So in the chat, I'm going to send it again for any of our families or our students that would like to send their pictures. And again, it's also on your screen right here in the middle. It says share your photos. Let Miss WIltrout type it really quickly. There we go. There is for all of our friends and families. That was a great question, Judah. I can also put it into the STEM Google Classroom. I'm sure Ms. Martinez wouldn't mind putting it in the art Google Classroom as well. So great question, Judah. All right, last but not least, I'm going to call on one more hand for this evening. Tara, yes, my dear, what would you like to share with everybody?
Okay. Hey, Callie. Oh yeah. You can share. So Helena wanted to share her galaxy. Here, can you see it?
Beautiful. Oh, that's lovely.
Used a lot of colors. My sister accidentally did it backwards.
I like all the colors. I think that makes it even more beautiful. I love the yellow.
But who cares?
That was
Mine, I accidentally recorded. Okay. Crazy.
great job, girls. I love it. Everybody did such a fabulous, fabulous job. But my dears, it is now time for you to go enjoy the rest of your evening because I know tomorrow is Friday and I want to make sure that you guys are well rested for your wonderful Friday. So, Ms. Martinez, is there anything you would like to say before we leave?
Thank you for joining us tonight. It has been so much fun, and we hope to do this again real soon. Remember to fill out the survey, share your photos on the tablet, and tag us in your post with hashtag SteamOrca and hashtag Orcas in Space.